It doesn't come all at once. The erosion of greatness is quiet. It happens in the half-second you justify delay. The harmless-sounding stories you whisper to yourself, "I'm tired today. It's not the right season. I'm still figuring things out. God understands." But what if I told you? Those aren't harmless. They're not neutral. They're not patient placeholders for progress. They are weapons, small, silent assassins. Every excuse is a dagger pointed at the destiny you were anointed to carry. Because here's the truth. God doesn't revoke anointing. We just bury it under layers of hesitation and habit. And before you realize it, what once burned in your bones becomes a flicker. Not because you lacked purpose, but because you tolerated postponement. You're not uncalled. You're just distracted. You're not broken. You're just busy defending the boundaries of your comfort zone while heaven keeps waiting for movement. This isn't a message to shame you. It's a wake-up call to remind you that excuses don't delay the enemy, they empower him. And every time you choose to negotiate with smallness, you are quietly handing over the authority that was supposed to be your voice, your impact, your breakthrough. So if you're ready to rise, to move like you're chosen, to finally stop protecting your patterns more than your potential, then stay locked in. Because today we uncover the high cost of hiding, and we expose what happens when you finally stop defending the old you and start stepping into the anointed one you were born to be. Let's begin. There is something sacred inside you. Not ordinary, not random, not disposable. Something chosen, something marked, something heaven sent. But here's the truth you've been avoiding every time you make an excuse. You're not just delaying your breakthrough. You're strangling your anointing. Yes, I said it. You are killing what God placed inside you. Not with sin, not with failure, but with excuses. Excuses are the language of the uncommitted, the anthem of those too afraid to rise, and the graveyard where dreams go to die quietly. You weren't born for comfort. You were called to be a builder, a kingdom carrier. But instead of bricks and vision, you've been stacking reasons why it's not your time. I'm too tired. I'm not ready. I don't have the resources. I'll start after the storm passes. But storms don't pass. They pass through you. They don't delay destiny, they refine it. Every great soul, every builder of nations, every shaper of history felt the urge to make excuses. But they chose purpose over pain, calling over comfort, fire over fear. When Edison failed 10,000 times, he could have said, "Maybe I'm not meant for this," but he didn't, because the anointing on his life wouldn't let him settle for darkness. When Harriet Tubman led slaves to freedom, she didn't say, "It's too dangerous." She said, "God told me to go, so I'm going." When Lincoln faced civil war, public criticism, and personal grief, he didn't say, "Let someone else lead." He led through the fire. Excuses never built a legacy. Excuses never birthed revolutions. Excuses never honored the anointing. And your anointing, it's not cheap. It was bought with blood. It's tied to generations. And every time you push it aside with a maybe later, you delay the deliverance someone else is waiting for. What if your obedience isn't about you at all? What if the business you haven't started, the book you haven't written, the discipline you keep avoiding, was supposed to be the very thing that unlocked someone else's healing? But you told yourself a story where you're the victim, not the vessel. And now you live in it like a prison cell with an open door. Let me be clear. You're not tired. You're distracted. You're not confused. You're avoiding clarity. You're not waiting. You're stalling. Because deep down, you know there is something in you that scares your comfort zone to death. And it should. Because the real you, the anointed you, is not here to blend in. You were born to disturb the system, to confront what others tolerate, to rise when others retreat. But you can't do any of that. While coddling your excuses like pets, you refuse to set free. There's a difference between rest and resignation, between discernment and delay, between wisdom and withering in silence. And some of you, you're calling your fear God's timing, when really it's your cowardice dressed in spiritual language. Let's not pretend anymore. God doesn't anoint you to be perfect. He anoints you to be obedient, to move when it's inconvenient, to speak when it's uncomfortable, to stand when the world begs you to sit down. And the longer you wait for it to get easier, the longer you let comfort become your idol. Because comfort is not your friend, it's a thief. It'll lull you to sleep while your calling gathers dust. And here's what you need to hear: excuses sound best to the one making them, but they rot the soul. They make you look in the mirror and see potential you'll never fulfill. Not because you weren't good enough, not because you lacked talent, but because you believed a lie that said you had more time. But destiny doesn't wait on your convenience. It knocks once, twice, then moves on to someone bold enough to answer. You want to be chosen? Then stop playing victim. You want favor? Then stop faking weakness, because the anointing is not fragile, but your excuses are. They crumble when you tell the truth that you've been hiding, the truth that whispers, you were meant for more and you know it. But you've been lying to yourself to protect your laziness, calling it burnout, calling it not now, calling it anything but what it is: fear of becoming who you truly are. And fear is loud, yes, but faith doesn't need to shout, it just needs to move. So move. Move like you're already anointed, because you are. The oil is already on your life. The calling is already on your name. The favor is already in your footsteps if you just take them. But excuses are the chains around your ankles. And God won't bless who you pretend to be. He blesses the one who shows up broken but willing, trembling but obedient, unqualified but available. Because the anointing isn't for the perfect. It's for the present, for the willing, for the warrior who says, even if I fail, I will not fold. You want to know why hell's been after you? Because hell knows what's inside you. Even when you forget, even when you doubt, even when you sabotage your own progress with one more excuse. So listen to me. Really listen. Your excuses are killing what heaven put in you. They are robbing you of divine momentum. They are assassinating your assignment. And every day you wait, another piece of your anointing goes dormant. But you don't have to keep killing it. You can choose now today to stop making excuses and start making progress. Because your future doesn't need perfection. It needs movement. Your legacy doesn't need more thinking. It needs action. And your anointing, it's waiting for your yes. Not your talent, not your timeline, just your yes. So stop bowing to fear. Stop negotiating with doubt. Stop treating your excuses like wisdom. They're not protecting you, they're poisoning you. And every minute you spend explaining why you can't, you could be executing what God already said you can. So move. Before the door closes. Before the fire dies. Before you become the person who almost did something great, but never did. You say you want the mountain, but you keep digging ditches. You say you want greatness, but you keep living in comfort. You say you're meant for more, yet every action whisper, I'll settle for less. And here's the paradox that chains most people for life. They pray for an overflowing harvest, but refuse to plant a single courageous seed. They ask for the extraordinary, but never give up the ordinary. They speak of destiny while dancing with distractions. You can't have both. You can't live like everyone else and expect to rise like the few. You were not made to be lukewarm. You were not designed for halfway living. There is nothing divine about hiding your fire under the blanket of fear. The truth is this: the universe does not respond to words. It responds to energy, to belief, to bold decisions backed by brutal consistency. Every day you tolerate mediocrity in your habits, you cast a vote for a smaller life. And no amount of hoping, no volume of vision boards, no perfect journal prompt will ever override the simple fact that you are either executing or you are excusing. You know what most people forget, that every big dream has a cost. It demands space, it demands sacrifice, it demands the death of who you used to be. You can't fit a 7-figure identity inside a 3-figure mindset. You can't pour legacy through a pipe clogged with comfort complaints and compromise. Wanting is not enough, because everyone wants. The real question is, what are you willing to walk away from? Can you walk away from your excuses? Can you walk away from that old story you keep rehearsing that tells you why you can't? Because that story, that version of you, it's built on defense. It's built on playing not to lose. But the future you, the one you pray for, they play to win, they play to lead, to dominate, to build, to serve at full capacity. Not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. Because once you taste purpose, you can't untaste it. And no job, no cheap dopamine, no surface-level success will ever be enough again. This is why people sabotage themselves, because stepping into that next level comes with a quiet death. The death of identity, the death of approval, the death of being liked by the people who love your limitations. And for some, that's too much. They'd rather shrink than be seen. They'd rather stay familiar than be free. But if you're still here listening, it means you're different. You're not just aching for more. You're ready to become more. So understand this. Your calling is not going to beg for your attention. Your greatness is not going to chase you down. It's waiting patiently behind the walls you built yourself. The walls of hesitation, the walls of insecurity, the walls of not yet, someday, and when I'm ready. But I'll tell you, the secret readiness is a decision, not a condition. You decide to be ready, then your actions teach your brain how to believe it. You speak it, you move in it, you burn the backup plan, and then you become it. Not because it was easy, but because you finally stopped asking permission to be powerful. You've been playing small out of habit, not because that's who you are. You've been shrinking to fit rooms you've outgrown, praying that your breakthrough wouldn't disturb the comfort of those around you. But expansion is never polite. It breaks things. It interrupts. It demands attention. It makes noise, and you've been quiet for far too long. You want big, then you've got to walk like it, talk like it, decide like it, build like it, because your future is waiting for you to stop asking and start acting. So here's your wake-up call. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. Pick one and go all in. And so the storm rages on. The winds scream louder than your doubts. The rain lashes down like the voices of your critics. You take another step and another, not because you're certain of the destination, but because standing still would be surrender. And you were not made to surrender. The storm is not your punishment. It's your preparation. You don't forge steel in a soft breeze. You don't birth greatness in silence and comfort. Every powerful soul, every titan you've ever admired. Lincoln, Mandela, Jobs, Roosevelt, they were not created by ease. They were carved by adversity, sharpened by trial, molded in the storm. They didn't curse the wind. They harnessed it. And now it's your turn. Because here's the brutal truth. They won't teach you in school, in Sunday sermons, or in polite conversations. The pain you feel isn't here to ruin you. It's the hammer hitting the anvil. Every blow a refining fire. Every moment you're forced to stand when you'd rather fall is building something in you that can't be learned in books or bought with privilege. It's building roots. And let me tell you something few ever realize: trees don't grow deep roots in calm weather. They grow them when the wind threatens to rip them from the ground. That's when they dig deep. That's when they decide whether they'll stand or snap. You're being called to dig deep right now, not to just endure, but to expand, to stretch your soul until it can carry more than it ever thought possible. To become someone who doesn't just survive storms, but commands them. Because inside every trial is a teaching. Inside every delay is a design. Inside every collapse is the raw material for a comeback story, so powerful it makes angels lean in. You think the storm is happening to you. It's not. It's happening for you. It's revealing your edges, showing you the truth of who you've been, and daring you to become someone greater. It's pulling off the mask, ripping away the illusion, forcing you to meet yourself without the filters and comforts. And once you meet that version, the raw, real, unfiltered you can finally begin the real work. You can finally build. Not a life that's perfect, but one that's powerful. Not a reputation, but a reality. Not a highlight reel, but an unshakable foundation. See, most people pray for ease. They want the storm to pass. But champions, they pray for strength. They ask for storms. Not because they like the pain, but because they trust the process. They understand the paradox. The harder the wind, the deeper the root. The bigger the storm, the stronger the soul. So when the storm surrounds you, don't look for the escape hatch. Don't run for cover. Don't beg for it to end. Stand up, look it dead in the eye, and whisper the words that change everything. I was built for this. Let them doubt you. Let the noise roar. Let the waves rise. Because while they panic, while they fold, while they complain and crumble and wait for permission to rise again, you become the one who grows in the chaos. You become the one who finds clarity inside confusion. You become the one who doesn't just get through storms. You become the storm. And when the clouds finally break, when the skies clear and the sun cuts through, they'll wonder how you did it, how you stood so long, so silent, so steady, when everything around you shook. But they won't understand because they didn't see the roots. They didn't hear the internal decision you made in the middle of the madness. The moment you chose faith over fear, purpose over panic, evolution over escape. And now, as you stand at the edge of this moment, battle-tested storm, forged eyes, clear, heart steady, understand this. You were never being broken. You were being built for leadership, built for legacy, built for impact so massive, so deep, so undeniable that no surface-level success story could ever compare. You didn't just survive the storm, you became something greater inside of it. And the world will never be the same again. There's a moment in every storm when the noise becomes unbearable. When the thunder is not just outside your window, it's inside your chest. When the world feels like it's pressing in from every angle. Deadlines, doubt, debt, diagnosis, divorce. The storm knows your name and it's not whispering, it's roaring. And in that moment, your instinct is to run, to fold, to find cover. But what if I told you that the storm doesn't hate you? What if it's not here to punish you, but to reveal you? You see, most people misunderstand pain. They treat it like punishment, like karma, like they've done something wrong. But pain is just the process of transformation, truth sharpening you against the rock of resistance. And without resistance, there's no revelation, no clarity, no power. The storm doesn't come to break you. It comes to strip you of what's fake. It comes to test the foundations you've built your life on. The shaky ones, the hollow ones, the borrowed ones, the ones built on approval, on comfort, on ego. The storm tests them, and if they fall, good, because what remains is real. The storm is the furnace. It burns away the pretense. It forces you to choose between who you've been pretending to be and who you're destined to become. And the ones who rise, they don't just survive the storm. They are the storm. They become thunder in human form, quiet until necessary, powerful without apology. Because here's the truth, life isn't supposed to stay sunny. If you only grow in comfort, you're not growing, you're coasting. And no one builds a legacy from the middle lane. Look at every world changer, Carnegie Lincoln, Oprah, Mandela, Edison, Jobs, Hill himself. You'll find pain. You'll find storms. You'll find isolation, rejection, years of obscurity and ridicule. But you'll also find one thing: they never lost a belief that the storm was part of the call. Because it is. If the calling on your life is big, the storm will be big too. Why? Because you're being forged. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Prepared to carry weight, influence, power, truth. And those things are heavy. They demand character, depth, discernment. If you haven't been refined by pressure, you'll collapse under the blessing. You'll sabotage the thing you prayed for because you skipped the process meant to shape you. So stop asking for the storm to end. Start asking what it came to teach you. Because the sooner you learn it, the sooner you rise through it. You've got to move from victim of the storm to voice in the storm. You've got to stop reacting to everything and start commanding something. You've got to stop living life on your heels and start stepping forward with your back straight, your vision clear, and your soul rooted. Because the ones who win long-term are not the loudest. They're the most anchored. They don't flinch when lightning strikes. They don't fold when waves rise. They've trained for chaos. They've studied themselves. They've stopped being surprised when life hits hard because they know that strength is never built on easy. You cannot pray for strength and then curse the weight. You cannot ask for growth and then resent the soil. You cannot ask to be built and then beg for ease. It doesn't work that way. And if you're honest with yourself, if you look around your life right now, you'll see that some of the most powerful moments in your journey didn't come wrapped in comfort. They came wrapped in discomfort, in silence, in heartbreak, in uncertainty. But now, from the other side, you realize that was the season that shaped you. That was the moment your roots grew deep. That was the chapter where you learned to breathe under pressure, speak under scrutiny, stand when no one clapped. The storm was building muscle memory, not physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It was teaching you how to not be moved by conditions. Because here's the difference between average and unstoppable. Average people are dictated by external circumstances. Unstoppable people are directed by internal conviction. Storms come and go, but identity lasts. And if your identity is forged in truth, no storm can take it. So what do you do now? You stop waiting for the clouds to clear and start walking through the rain. You don't negotiate with fear. You don't entertain excuses. You don't Google your way out of growth. You anchor yourself. You speak what's true even when your voice shakes. You hold the line when everything inside you says run. And you keep going. Not because it's easy, not because it's fair, but because you know that this is the moment that defines everything that follows. The storm is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your edge. The pressure you feel now, that's not your enemy. That's the resistance proving you're on the right path. You've stepped beyond the comfort zone, and the friction is the sign you're alive. You're moving. You're building something that can't be broken by a little wind. And if you stay in it long enough, if you keep your eyes open through the rain, you'll notice something strange. The storm doesn't last. But what it leaves behind, a version of you who doesn't flinch, who doesn't fold, who doesn't need the sun to shine to move forward. A version of you that doesn't beg for ease because you've tasted the power of perseverance. This is not about surviving storms anymore. It's about becoming the kind of person who grows inside them. The kind of person who steps out of the wreckage with fire in their eyes and says, "Thank you. That wasn't the end of me, that was the making of me." And when you reach that point, that sacred place where pressure turns to peace, you'll finally understand. The storm wasn't sent to break you. It was sent to build you, and now you're ready. But there's something else. The storm reveals something deeper than strength, something rarer than courage. It reveals who you serve. Because every storm will ask you one question. Where do you place your faith? Not the faith you preach when things are smooth. The faith you demonstrate when all the walls are shaking and there's no one left to clap for you. It's easy to claim belief when life is calm, but real faith doesn't show up in the comfort. It's born in the chaos. It's forged in silence. And it's tested in pressure. When the plan falls apart, when the money dries up, when the vision gets blurry and the critics get loud, that's when you discover if your belief is anchored in truth or propped up by convenience. Because storms aren't sent to decorate your story. They're sent to expose your roots. You don't rise by avoiding the storm. You rise by standing inside it, feet planted, hands steady, voice trembling but still speaking truth over your own life. You rise by declaring who you are before the storm passes. You say, I will not retreat. I will not negotiate. I will not trade my destiny for temporary relief. Because if you run now, you will always be the person who runs. But if you stay, even when your knees shake, even when the wind scream lies at your identity, something changes. You gain something no storm can ever take, again certainty. You become the person who stayed. The person who trusted not the outcome, but the process. Not the comfort, but the character. Not the circumstances, but the creator. Because here's a truth most people won't tell you. Storms don't steal your potential, they strip your distractions. They peel away everything that's been pretending to be strength. They cut out the parts of you that can't go to the next level. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it's confusing. Yes, it looks like loss. But loss is the language of refinement. And you weren't called to survive life, you were called to be refined by it. Like gold in fire. Like steel under pressure. Like character in seasons of waiting. Some of you right now are praying for the storm to end when heaven is using the storm to begin something new in you. And until you stop trying to escape the very things sent to grow you, you'll stay stuck in cycles of shallow strength, fake peace, and surface-level belief. Because you weren't built for a safe life. You were built to carry purpose. And purpose requires preparation. See, every storm has two voices. The one outside you screaming fear, and the one within you whispering truth. And the war of your life will always come down to which voice you feed. Do you feed the fear, the doubt, the panic? Or do you shut the noise out and say, no, this storm didn't come to bury me, it came to build me. The storm is loud, but your faith must be louder. The storm is wild, but your purpose must be weightier. And the storm is real, but so is your calling. Because the truth is, the storm was never your enemy. It was your assignment. Sent not to test your potential, but to activate it. Sent not to destroy your path, but to force you to walk it. Because only pressure wakes up purpose. Only storms introduce you to the version of yourself you said you wanted to become. You don't become strong just because you want to. You become strong when strength is your only option. You become brave when backing down would mean betraying the call on your life. You become wise when mistakes cost more than ego. You become disciplined when distraction nearly took everything. And you become faithful not when the outcome is guaranteed, but when it isn't, and you show up anyway. So stop praying for it to get easier, and start asking for strength to carry it better. Stop waiting for the clouds to clear and start building in the rain. Because your future doesn't depend on the forecast. It depends on your foundation. And the ones who rise, the ones who lead, the ones who leave impact that echoes for decades, they weren't protected from the storm. They were transformed by it. They didn't ask, why me? They asked, what am I being prepared for? They didn't wait for rescue. They became the rescue for their families, their mission, their generation. And so must you. Because one day, you'll stand on the other side of this storm. Not just with more success, not just with more skill, but with a spirit that cannot be broken. Not because it was never hit, but because it refused to break. That's who you're becoming. That's what this storm is for. So breathe, straighten your spine, and meet the wind like a warrior. You were never meant to play small. You were never meant to shrink in the storm. You were meant to rise inside of it. Let it rain. Let it roar. Let it refine. Because when it's over, the storm won't define you. You'll define it. But here's what no one tells you: the longer the storm lasts, the more precise it's shaping you. The delay isn't denial, it's design. There are forces moving in your favor that you cannot see. Not yet. And that's the part that tests your faith, not when everything is going wrong, but when nothing seems to be happening at all. When the rain has stopped, but the sky is still gray. When the clouds hang above you like questions unanswered, and your prayers echo in silence. But the silence is not empty. It's sacred. The silence is where the roots grow deep. It's where your soul gets calibrated. It's where God molds character, not comfort. Identity, not image. And if you run from this space, you rob yourself of the very strength you were supposed to rise with. Because this is the part where the storm changes direction. It's not coming at you anymore. It's coming through you. You don't just survive it, you wield it. And the moment that clicks, the moment you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Try me," you shift the entire balance of power. You stop being a victim of the conditions and start becoming the architect of the outcome. Storms don't bow to weakness, but they do respond to will. Think of every great builder of legacy. Did you think Edison only had light in his lab? That Ford's factories were born without chaos? That Lincoln didn't bleed inside before he led outside? Every one of them faced a tempest so severe it would have shattered a lesser man. But they stayed. They stayed through the storm. And the storm in time became their refiner's fire. And you, if you can hold your line, if you can refuse to collapse into the comfort of retreat, if you can breathe through the pressure long enough, something divine will begin to emerge in you. You'll start seeing differently, thinking differently, acting from a place of truth, not impulse, from purpose, not panic, but only after you stop negotiating with fear. Because fear will try everything. It will wear the mask of logic. It will whisper in your voice. It will hand you distractions wrapped in validation. It will make comfort sound spiritual. It will dress up escape as wisdom. And if you're not anchored to vision, you'll listen. You'll start shrinking your goals to match your emotions. You'll start compromising your calling for peace treaties with mediocrity. And worst of all, you'll start calling it balance. But you weren't made for balance. You were made for breakthrough. Balance is the language of those who've settled. Breakthrough is the dialect of those who've decided. And you've already come too far to go quiet now. You know what playing small has cost you. You know the pain of pretending not to care when every part of your soul is crying out for more. You know what it feels like to watch others live boldly while you rehearse your excuses in silence. That pain. It was the wake-up call, that longing in your chest that wasn't weakness. That was destiny knocking. And this storm, it isn't punishment. It's preparation. Preparation for a life you prayed for before you even had the words. Preparation for the table you'll sit at, the rooms you'll walk into, the people you'll lift, the impact you'll make. But here's the price: you must stay until it's done. No shortcuts, no skipping steps, because every single thing you are going through right now has been carefully permitted to build what you'll need on the other side. Patience, precision, perspective, power. You want to lead. This storm will teach you how to stay calm when everything's collapsing. You want to inspire. This storm will show you how to speak to the pain you've lived, not the theory you've read. You want to be trusted with more. This storm will refine your integrity when no one's watching. Storms give you something success never will: substance. Success looks good. Storms make you good. And that's why this moment matters more than any easy one ever could. So stop asking for the storm to pass. Ask for the strength to rise inside it. Ask for the wisdom to walk with it. Ask for the courage to become someone that the storm fears losing. Because the truth is, the storm was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to reveal you. You don't rise when it's easy. You rise when it's dark, when it's silent, when everything inside of you wants to run and you stand anyway. That's where your identity is forged. That's where your legacy begins. And when this storm passes, and it will, don't just thank God for the breakthrough. Thank Him for the breaking. Because that's where He built you. There is a moment, a sacred one, where the storm slows just enough for you to hear it. Not the thunder, not the wind, but the whisper beneath it, the invitation. You thought the storm came to destroy, but it came to deliver. To rip away what no longer belongs to your destiny. To destroy the walls that were keeping you small. To take what you were never strong enough to release on your own. That's not punishment. That's preparation. That's mercy, in a form most people mislabel as pain. And in that silence between strikes of lightning, you begin to remember every storm you've ever survived was not proof of your suffering, but evidence of your strength. Stop interpreting the shaking as collapse. It's not falling apart. It's falling into place. The storm is removing the non-essentials, the distractions, the lies you've told yourself to stay comfortable, the identities you wore so you could belong but never grow. You can't take the old self into the next season. You can't take the victim into the vision. You can't take the one who avoids storms into a destiny that requires them. Because the storm is where you meet your real self. Not the curated version, not the public mask, but the one who keeps moving when there's no applause. The one who decides, I will not break, I will build. Look at every builder of greatness, Lincoln, who knew depression's darkness like a friend, yet held a fractured nation together under pressure that would drown most. Disney bankrupt and laughed at who kept drawing mice when the world saw rats. Edison, who failed more than 1,000 times, but built the light that now lets us see through the storm. They didn't pray to be spared. They embraced the pressure. They turned the chaos into clarity. They stood firm while the storm rebuilt them into giants. And now it's your turn. Stop waiting for the wind to stop. Build in the middle of the shaking. Speak vision when it doesn't make sense. Move when nothing feels secure. Trust that the storm is not a delay, it's design. It is customizing your character for the future that's already been written, but cannot be reached by who you used to be. Most people think storms are a punishment, but the spiritually awake, the mentally elite, they know. The storm is an upgrade, and it only comes when you're ready. You've asked for strength, so life gave you something to endure. You've asked for clarity, so life removed your distractions. You've asked for purpose, so life exposed what isn't aligned. That doesn't feel gentle, but it is necessary. Because if you only ever grew in comfort, you'd never discover your edge. And your edge is where your future lives. So when the clouds gather and the winds rise again, and they will, don't flinch. Don't beg for shelter. Don't pray to be rescued. Stand, rooted, decided, immovable. Say to the storm, I know who sent you, and I know why you're here. Not to destroy me, but to strip away everything that's not solid, so I can rise on the foundation that is. There comes a moment in every life when the whisper becomes a roar, when the quiet ache inside your chest, the one you've been calling anxiety, distraction, restlessness, finally tells the truth. It's hunger. The hunger to become, the hunger to build, the hunger to stop shrinking just so other people feel comfortable, the hunger to rise. And no matter how many times you prayed for breakthrough, for elevation, for clarity, none of it came. Not because it wasn't meant for you, but because you weren't ready to carry what you were asking for. You can't pray for thunder and walk like a whisper. You can't pray for overflow and keep living like you're barely worthy of a drop. Heaven doesn't reward hesitation. It answers alignment. It answers action. And right now, in this very moment, the life you've been asking for is waiting behind one decision. Stop playing small. Small is safe. Small is familiar. Small lets you blend in. Keep peace. Avoid conflict. Make excuses. But small is also where dreams go to die. Small is where gifted people drown in potential. Small is where purpose rusts in silence. And you were never built for small. You've known it since you were a child. You've felt it every time you compromised, every time you held back, every time you watered yourself down just to survive the room instead of transforming it. But you're not here to survive. You're here to shape worlds, to change narratives, to build legacies not from what you inherited, but from what you decided. So what happens now? Now, you go silent and build. Not for applause, not for validation, not to prove the doubters wrong, but because there is something sacred about honoring the fire within you even when no one else sees the flame. You build the habits, the routines, the discipline. You build a world around your vision so fortified that fear can't enter it, and comfort can't live in it. And yes, it's going to cost you. It'll cost you distraction. It'll cost you popularity. It'll cost you weekends and comfort and the illusion that you can have elevation without execution. But let me ask you, what's the price of staying small? The dreams you never touch, the talents you never develop, the legacy you never leave. You've got to choose. Because the version of you who plays small cannot exist in the same body as the one who lives in overflow. They are incompatible spirits. One must die so the other can rise. So here's what you do. You wake up tomorrow like your future depends on it. Because it does. You stop explaining your ambition to people who've made peace with mediocrity. You stop praying for doors to open while refusing to knock with discipline. You move even if you're scared. You speak even if your voice shakes. You lead even if you feel unqualified. Because let me remind you, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And you've been called. Every delay, every disappointment, every rejection, every storm, it didn't break you. It built you. Now it's time to use it. It's time to stop romanticizing the idea of a breakthrough and become the one who breaks through. It's time to stop waiting for the right moment and become the one who creates it. Because here's the final truth: you can pray for big things all you want. But until your habits match your hope, until your execution matches your expectation, until your movement matches your mindset, you'll always stay stuck in the space between the man you are and the one you were born to be. So rise. Speak louder than your doubts. Move faster than your fears. Show up even when no one claps. Your purpose isn't waiting on approval, it's waiting on obedience. And when obedience becomes your operating system, not comfort, not motivation, not ease, that's when the floodgates open. That's when the vision becomes real. That's when your identity locks in. And that's when you stop playing small forever. So don't just pray for big. Live for it. Move for it. Bleed for it. Build for it. Because your destiny doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to work. Now go be the one who never goes back, because you weren't born to blend in. You were born to break the mold, to own the room, to shift the culture, to build something eternal with your mind, your hands, and your will. So ask yourself, if not now, when? If not you, who now go? The world has seen enough people play small. It's time they see what happens when one person finally decides, enough. So now you know. Every time you say maybe later, every time you say, I'm not ready, every time you choose comfort over calling, you're not just delaying a dream, you're draining your divine assignment. Because your anointing doesn't need more time. It needs obedience. It needs motion. It needs a version of you that stops negotiating with fear and starts answering with fire. The world won't wait. Your purpose won't pause. And heaven doesn't endorse hesitation. The question isn't whether you're called, you are. The question is whether you're moving like you believe it. So take this moment, not to feel inspired, but to feel convicted. And let that conviction pull you to your feet, because you don't rise by waiting. You rise by walking. The next step won't be perfect, but it will be proof. Proof that the anointing still burns. Proof that you're done shrinking. Proof that you've buried the excuses for good. Now go prove it with your life, not your words.